Hi, my name is Rhys, and I'm a comic book artist based in Brighton in the UK. And I'm here to tell you that your childhood was trash if you didn't watch Blockmasters.
Lazer Time, boys!
You know, we talked to so many people, and I think Nick and I are still surprised that after 26 episodes, no one's picked Transformers and no one's picked He-Man.
Really?
But we've had 3 episodes of G.I. Joe and 3 episodes of Ninja Turtles.
Right.
Which Nick and I love all those things, but
Right.
Obscure is so much better.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially when you mention the Bots Master, because I watched that as a kid.
Yeah.
I loved it so much.
Amazing. Yeah.
I'm assuming you watched it when you were a kid. That was your first introduction to it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I must have been about 10, I guess. It came out, 93? So, yeah, and I think in the UK, I reckon I must have been about 10 or 11. Man, it was amazing. Like, I used to really, every week wait for that. And that was, back in the day where, you had to wait for stuff on TV. And if you missed it, you missed that episode. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was no internet, so I couldn't find it anywhere. I didn't even think it was, on sale in the UK. So... yeah, man. Every week that was like my prime time viewing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No. It was when it came out. It was like we talked about. It was totally different. It was.
Yes.
It had that 3D factor, and not just the what it might. I forget what they called it. It might have been something as simple as it's 3D time or whatever. When they splash the glasses to put your glasses on or whatever.
Lazer Time. It's Lazer Time.
Is that what it was? Okay, yeah. But that was cool. But not only that, but the intro was very much 3D. It was almost like they went back to the Disney days of rotoscoping and moving the camera around. And even the intro, even without glasses, was very 3D. It was super cool.
This is the thing. So I did a little dig on it, and it's a really interesting effect. And that effect that they use is kind of a very early form of how the 3D lenticular effect you get with films like Avatar. So it's a really interesting sort of thing. It's like a psychological thing that happens where you have 2 different lenses, one slightly darker. It creates a very slight fracture of time difference with the light hitting your eye, and it creates a 3D effect. Now, I didn't have the glasses when I was a kid. I was watching it on TV. So when it went into Lazer Time, I was like, wow, this is 3D. This is amazing. Because, I didn't realize there were glasses that you're supposed to wear to make it look even more 3D. Do you know what I mean? It's funny, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I remember I had a handful of the action figures. And each one of those came with a pair of Bots Master branded 3D glasses to wear for the... Yeah, I had a couple. I can't remember. It's been years, and this is one of the shows that it doesn't get relived too often, which again is why I love that you picked it. Everyone can go back and relive Bionic 6 or Voltron, but Bots Master, it doesn't get relived that much. So I remember I had Ziv.
Did you? Oh, cool.
Or ZZ for short. He was cool because he had a helmet and a chest armor, and then he had the super long gun that could dismantle, and it became parts of his self. I don't want to say armor because it wasn't really armor that he was wearing, but I had him. I had the ninja guy, the 3-armed ninja.
Right.
And then
he was cool. He had he was a really cool character.
Yeah, it 2 of the arms, it was one arm here and the other arm came out of his armpit. It was really weird. It goes to show you what type of inventor Ziv was.
Yeah, Ziv Zulande as well. Way before Zoolander, the Ben Stiller Zoolander.
Yeah, way before Ben Stiller stole that
it's
IP.
A slightly different premise.
Yes.
Although now you just got to think about Zoolander as Ziv Zulande.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
maybe they could reboot it and kind of mash the 2 together. So fashion bots, do you know what I mean?
Oh
no, that's so good.
The robots are going down the runway.
Yeah. And they're warring with each other.
they have like hydraulic stilettos, so they can like raise and lower their heels.
Oh my god, that's amazing! They could be like drag, like bot battles, and they could have like
that'd be
machine
awesome.
gun like breasts and stuff. That
I
would
think
be
this
cool.
is what
yeah.
we
I'd
need
watch
now.
it. I'd watch it.
Yeah.
But and then I had there was a combiner.
Oh right,
It was
yeah,
like
okay.
it was like 4 or 5 bots that combine. Like they tried to be, want to be like a Devastator, where it was a
Yeah.
car or a vehicle turned into a robot, and then they all combine. And I remember that was the biggest piece of shit toy I ever had.
Was it really bad?
The plastic felt cheap for the 90s,
Right,
and
right.
the transformations were silly. One of those things where like flip this down and move the arms
Yeah.
from here down to their side, and they're a robot. And then
Yeah.
when it combined, the thing would never stay together; it would just fall apart. It was very disappointing.
Because I was watching an advert before this of the toys to kind of refresh my memory and everything, and I think that was the big downfall of the series. Actually, like the whole thing was a premise a bit like Transformers and Thundercats and everything, to get a whole toy franchise and to make a load of money that way. I mean, the series itself ran for 40 episodes, which was quite a lot, actually.
That is a lot, yeah.
That's a lot, yeah. But I think it's the toys. I never had them, but I think looking at them, the toy construction, and they were very like primary colored as well. They were like red and blue and yellow, and
very
bright.
It was very, very specifically basic colors. Yeah.
Yeah, they were, and I think that kind of missed the target market a little bit, or maybe aimed it at like maybe too younger kids, so that the older kids didn't grow with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So if it came out in '93, I was 9, and
Right.
I'll tell you, like that hit me. Those figures hit me. Like I liked how bright and colorful they were, and they were fun.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I liked them. Because like back then, I liked that the bright, simple designs and color schemes. When as an adult, it's like I want detail all sculpted all over this thing and paints all over the place and give it a nice little wash, a dark wash and stuff. But when I was 9, like that stuff, I gravitated to that stuff.
Well, it was really like on fashion as well for the 90s, wasn't it? So we're about the same age then. And like, I think it was like really on like brand for the 90s. But I think like for it to have like the toys to have longevity like Transformers had and Thundercats and everything, they've kind of managed to keep, because of the design of them, they've managed to kind of stay cool, haven't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I think the B.O.Z.Z toys, when I was looking at them, they did look a bit like you were saying. Well, you experienced sort of cheap and clunky and a bit kind of mashed together, which was a kind of a shame, right? Because if they had better toys, maybe it would have been a bigger series.
Yeah, I mean, I might still have those figures stashed away somewhere, but to be honest, I wouldn't mind having them again. At least those two, like the Ninja guy and then Ziv, just because it's that nostalgia for me because I had them. But like the designs, they weren't terrible designs at all.
Right.
They weren't the best figures of the time, but they had cool little gimmicks. I think with the Ninja, because of the 2 arms, there's a wheel on the back that you could spin, and like the 2 arms would spin together. I think it had something like that.
Right.
But not only that, but I mean, that show was just, I forget the whole plot, but it was kind of a goofy little concept. It was like him inventing like robot friends, and like one of them's going to be a ninja, one of them's going to be a sports guy.
Yeah.
It's like
he was all your bases, bud.
Yeah, but it was like, high school sucked for him, so he was going to recreate the high school. But they're all going to be his friend now.
That's basically
every club.
Yeah. He basically just created his whole friend group out of robots, and we're like, cool. I'm like the leader of my robot friend group. I'm going to have like a disco, like a. It was all like very like bebop as well, wasn't it? Like a lot of breakdancing bots and like ghetto blasters and. Like I loved it. Like it was really funny actually because I couldn't remember what it was called only until about 3 months ago. I couldn't remember what it was called, so I was like saying to my partner, because my partner's like a bit younger than me, but he, we kind of love all that sort of 90s like cartoons and everything.
Yeah.
And I was saying to him, like, you know, we've been together 10 years. I've been going like, oh, there was this amazing cartoon. It was called like Laser VR or VR like Warriors or VR. I kept on thinking it was VR. And then about 3 months ago, like I was just on the internet and it was doing a nostalgia video thing of Botsmaster, and I was like, oh my god, that's it! I was like, oh god, my childhood has finally unlocked that little nugget that I've been searching for all
You
these
did it.
years. I
You
finally did
satisfied
it.
that itch.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That, and I love how the show overly used the letter Z in everything.
Yeah, that was a real 90s thing as well, definitely. Like every S was a Z. So it was like
Yes.
boys and like
Yeah.
bots, and they
Yeah.
really played on
Laser.
that. It was like properly into the branding, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, realistically, since it was the 90s, I feel like Ziv was probably like the animated version of like Zach Morris.
Yeah, he was. Well, from Saved by the Bell, yeah.
More,
With the
more
kind
of a Screech there, buddy.
Do you think?
Because Screech actually, you know, built the robot. Kevin.
I was gonna say, didn't he build a robot?
And then
Oh,
in the
yeah.
and then the reboot, he wasn't in it. He was like the only guy that didn't come back because there was that whole thing. But they explained him not being there because he was on a space station with Kevin.
Yeah, interesting.
In like
Is that-
in like the 2020 reboot series, they were
Is
like,
that
yeah,
really?
Screech is doing his space. Like they explained him as like an astronaut
Oh.
on his space station with Kevin, and I was like, you know, all right, I'm okay with that like weird write out there.
Who was Kevin? Was he a character?
He was
in
the
it?
robot that he built in like
Oh, right.
Yeah, he was. So they were just like, so that robot he built in like
Yeah.
the original series, he's definitely just in space with him now.
Wow.
I was like, all right.
Wow.
I mean, what else is Screech gonna do?
I mean, what was his name? Dustin Diamond, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And
Dustin Diamond.
it went really weird, didn't it? I was reading about it recently. All the like rumors that he was saying about all the cast, and and like loads of stuff that happened on set that they obviously say didn't happen on set, and it's kind of and then it all went very dark actually, didn't it? After Saved by the Bell,
He did Saved by the Bell the first series, and then he did the New Class
right.
and the college years, and then he did some reality TV shows.
He did Celebrity Boxing.
Did he?
Yeah, he
Oh,
did
right.
that, and he did a show called
Wasn't it like
I don't know.
Saved by the Smell as well or something? There was like, wasn't there like some sort of dodgy like porno or something he made?
Oh, jeez,
Right.
I have no idea.
Yeah, he did have a
And-
porn. Yeah, he did
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a porn come out. And then there was the tell-all book. And it's funny because recently I was talking about this as well. So all that dodgy stuff was
Yeah.
in his book.
Oh,
And it
yeah, that
turns
was
out
it.
he didn't write his book. He
Right.
basically got interviewed and they kind of just twisted some stuff to the
Oh,
point where he
right.
had to like start defending it. He's like, all right, hold on. Like, I didn't have the best time, but I didn't say some of that. Like,
Oh, right.
and before he passed away, he did eventually end up like kind of clearing the air with a lot of the cast members to the point where when he passed away, they actually did a salute episode, like at the end of an episode, like
Oh,
because they
right.
heard like the space station crashed or something like that. So
Oh,
like,
right.
or
Oh, God,
I don't
that's
remember
crazy.
exactly what they did, but it was an interesting weird like write-off there. But yeah, after Saved by the Bell, he didn't, outside of Saved by the Bell, he didn't do a whole lot.
I don't think any of them did they? I don't even think.
So-
I mean, Zach, I don't even think did anything, did he?
No,
He-
Zach actually did a number of things.
Did he?
He went on to do something else, and
Dude,
he
he
did
did-
a lawyer.
No, he did Raising the Bar, which was a phenomenal law drama, like one of the best
Okay.
ones that I've
With
seen.
like the mom from Malcolm in
Really?
the Middle. Yeah, she was.
Oh,
a judge.
I
really?
don't remember anyone else from it, but it was really good. And then he
Right.
did Franklin and Bash, which was
Right.
him and Breckin Meyer as ambulance chasing lawyers.
Really?
And that was also a really good show.
Was it?
But they're ambulance
Wow.
casing lawyers who get hired by Malcolm McDowell to like a real big law firm.
Yeah.
So
Right. Really?
Yeah, it was
Wow.
good. Yeah.
So,
it was a fantastic show.
so this is crazy. So when was that? Was that in the 2000s he did that?
That was
Yeah. Early
early
2000s.
2010s.
Early
No,
2010s.
was it that
Right.
late? That late on?
Late 2000s, early 2010s, because since then, he's been on like 3 other shows that lasted only a couple seasons. He's actually on a show right now as a serial killer.
Right. Oh wow.
That is like captured in the basement.
That's crazy. I had no idea that he did all of this stuff. I'm gonna go and watch these after, right? Because I need some new series. And
Franklin and Bash is like one of my favorite shows because
it's
the
super
cast,
good.
It's got on top of that, and it also has Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah.
Right.
Who, if you don't know who he is, he was in the most recent Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
As the fire guy, and he was also in the MCU movie Eternals.
Oh, okay.
He was the creative one.
Oh, right.
Who stuck around and became like an actor.
Right.
I can't remember his name.
I didn't. I couldn't get through the Eternals. I only watched about quarter of an hour of it. I just went. I can't do it.
You're the majority.
Is that right? Is that
it's universally hated.
Is it?
Well, see, here's the thing with it, right? I don't think it would have been a terrible movie as a movie. What makes it suck is it's a Marvel movie.
Right.
That's the problem. If it came out as like its own thing, I think it would have done a lot better.
Yeah. I think it's really difficult with Marvel. I mean, like I do a lot of the Comic Cons, and the general consensus I get from all the people at Comic Cons is that I think people are a little bit Marvel fatigued or a little bit superhero fatigued in general. I mean, I think the first 20 years of Marvel's MCU was incredible. It was groundbreaking. The fact that they've got stories interlinking from the very first movie, the very Iron Man all the way through, and you think, wow, for a writing challenge, that's incredible to link 20 years. There's a lot of brain power, isn't there? And there's amazing Easter eggs in it all the way peppered through.
Yeah.
And I think generally the films were amazing. I've loved the last 20 years, but they've kind of they got Infinity War, they finished it, and then it's like, oh shit, who we got left? Do you know what I mean? It's almost like the bargain basement bin of characters. Like, oh, we got this guy and this woman. Oh, shit, what are we gonna do with them?
That's the thing is, I the fatigue. I got sick of seeing the same old characters, and then they're getting replaced, but they're not doing shit with half of them. Yeah, they kill off, at least for now, Vision, and he's like arguably the most interesting character they have out of their second string. But I agree. For me, Infinity War was the end for me. I wasn't a huge fan of Endgame, and except for if you didn't get chills in a movie theater when Chris Evans finally says, Avengers Assemble, when you get, if you don't get chills, then there's something wrong with you there. Other than that movie felt flat for me. Yes. And everything since then has felt flat. And I think it's because everything now for them just seems like, all right, we're in a 12 by 12 room with the walls painted green and a camera. We're going to make this movie. That's what it feels like to me. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, it literally felt boxed into me. It didn't feel I watched the first 2 episodes of not even multiversity at all. I watched the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte today for the new Star Wars show. And that's the first thing I thought of is I'm like, the background is vast. It's a character. The character's taking up a small portion of the screen and the rest is like the environment. And I'm like, okay, this, whether we're filmed in the volume, like the Mandalorian stuff, I don't know, but it feels big. Yeah. Then you go to watch even Quantumania and stuff like that, and it feels small. That and how many times can there be a world-threatening event that gets stopped, and especially now that they've done the whole Avengers thing, and there was 50 Avengers on screen or whatever, it's like you're going to tell me that Captain America or Sam is going to go face a villain and he's going to have a hard time and he can't just call in, the Hulk or
right.
anyone. So like that also loses the real the realism is
But
like,
okay, yeah. I mean, that's the thing with all. I think every superhero is that they've got to have a chink in their armor, right? And that's the interesting thing. And the more chinks they have in their armor, the more interesting they are as a character. That's why I've never really been a massive fan of Superman, because his only chink is the kryptonite,
Yeah.
And whereas I've always much preferred like Batman, for example, because Batman's just a guy with a lot of money and a lot of like emotional baggage, which kind of makes him a much more interesting character, isn't it?
Even was it the Justice League movie where the Flash is like, "What's your superpower?" and he's like, "I'm really rich." That's it. It's like, all right, that works.
Rich and determined. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's why I think they really gotta fast. I don't want to say fast track because they got to do it right. They got to do it right and not screw it up because they probably only have one chance. But they got to get Fantastic Four out there and they got to get X-Men out there.
Oh man, X-Men. I mean, X-Men. I'm a massive fan on. I was listening to your previous episode with talking about X-Men this evening, and the whole '90s reboot is amazing. I'm really enjoying that cartoon. I love it. Like her Gambit's got so much like meme traction for wearing that crop top, and people are like, that's just what they were in the '90s. I mean, I think Gambit's always been like that anyway. Yeah. But I mean, I just X-Men. I think the first two movies. The second movie, X-Men 2, that came out, I can't remember when that was. That was in the 2000s. I think is probably my favorite all-time superhero film. It's an amazingly constructed movie with a great cast.
Oh man, I've never talked to somebody else who's talked so highly of that movie. Like,
really,
I've been like the weird minority.
X2, yeah.
I have
X2 is like universally loved.
Yeah, but it's weird. Nobody ever brings it up, and everybody's like, "Oh, X-Men 3 sucked." I was like, "Yeah, but X-Men 2 was like
it was incredible." Yeah,
I've watched that movie so many times.
Yeah,
and I'm just like it, and it's because they bring in a whole they just bring in this weird like casting and you weren't expecting, and they give you characters like. Never thought I'd see Toad on the screen. Like, whoever would have thought of that? And it's Darth Maul. Okay, weird.
Yeah, Ray Park is Toad. That's super cool.
But I have in previous episodes we talked about it. Like, I've always loved Nightcrawler. Whether I, knowing his like origins and stuff like that.
That opening scene was fantastic.
Right?
Like the suicide attempt on the president. Like,
yeah.
Like,
but I gotta say real quick before we continue on with X2, 97 outdid that scene.
Oh yes,
Has the three swords and he's fighting, and then he grabs Wolverine, or Wolverine grabs the bad guy, and then it's that like POV teleport that we've never seen before. Holy shit! That I want to see that in live action. Awesome. That was so good.
It was fantastic. But yeah, like the amount of characters, the amount of time, like the story, everything about it just hit. And like my group of friends at the time were like, "Why do you like this movie so much?" I'm like, "Why don't you?" But
it was really kind of like it had a really great like pacing to it, and I think that's definitely what I found with films. Like films nowadays, I find pacing is very, very fast. We jump to action scene, and I think previously, I don't know when this has happened. I think in the last 10 years, and films just before that, they just had a slightly slower pacing. But it was like it's like film studios are terrified that people are going to get bored, so they just throw so much in. And I really struggle with them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I want to be enveloped in a story. Like I want to sit there. I want to be invested. I want to be, captivated by it, and that could literally be 45 minutes of you just laying the groundwork and setting the tone and the drama
Yeah.
before an
Give
actual
me the
action scene
story.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're afraid because it's basically been proven. Like, people just aren't paying attention to, they're not, like, they need that constant engagement. Otherwise, they're getting bored, and it is something that's come across in like the past 10 years, and it's like gotten progressively over the years kind of worse.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we're kind of getting that marveled out, like we talked about a minute ago. It's because, and even Disney's like, we're gonna slow pace down because
Smart
people
move.
aren't even like, we're pumping it out and people aren't even caring about it. And I'm like, I'm 4 shows behind and like 4 movies behind, and I'm like,
It's a lot.
I don't know, and it's because of that fast pacing. They're just like, okay, we need to catch them. Like, we can't lose momentum in any way, shape, or form. Whereas, people our age are like, give me the world building. Give me that. I don't need a fight scene every 15 seconds. Sure, maybe the 10-year-old needs a fight scene every 10 seconds to keep his attention, but
then it's not a movie for him. Not
it's
yet.
not. Yeah, it's not meant to keep their attention.
Yeah.
And I think that goes down to like why there's so many shows like Boss Masters that we had as a kid, is because we wanted to see all that stuff when we were kids. Like, we had that constant engagement of.
But see, that's the other thing, right? Like, why Boss Masters stuck in our heads is, like you said in the beginning, it was once a week, right? Or once a day, or whenever. I forget. Some schedules back then, you got an episode a day, but it was once a day or once a week. You missed it, you miss it.
Yeah.
Maybe you catch it later.
Yeah, if you're lucky. But you watch it and then it sits with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Nowadays, things are just getting pumped out, so it doesn't sit with you. You don't have the chance to like decompress it and process the whole thing properly to make it have a lasting impact. I'm fully guilty of that, right? If there's a show I'm excited about and they're like, hey, here's 12 episodes the whole season, bam, I'm gonna watch that probably in a day or two.
Man,
like I want that content.
So easy.
But you know what? A week later, I'm gonna forget anything that happened in there. Like there's new shows that I watch that I love the shows. I'm like, wow, this is a great show, and I'll binge 12 episodes, and then a week later, I can't tell you a single character's name in it.
Yes.
And it's because we're just consuming it and we're not processing and decompressing it, and it's just in one ear out the other. Okay, what's the next show that I'm going to binge now, or the next movie that I'm going to
I think it's a real problem because, like, I mean, the shows that me and my partner watch together when they're weekly, like, we find it infuriating because we're like, oh man, we've got to wait a whole week. But actually, waiting that week is amazing. It's like, it really does make it. Yeah, and you're sort of like, like I always sort of joke that our relationship's so much better when we've got something to watch together or something to play together, and I'm always kind of waiting for that next thing, like we played Baldur's Gate recently. Nice. We played that together, and oh man, that was so much fun to have like such a long 100-hour campaign where we could really geek out together, have arguments over who used what frost scroll when or whatever, but like. There's so many. I mean, being a comic book artist, I'm constantly got things on in the background that I listen to. I love having a show, so I'm constantly churning through content, and I have stuff where I can't, like, it won't hold my interest enough to watch it, but it will hold my interest whilst I'm drawing.
Yeah.
And then, but then if it's really good, like, I mean, I did that with Breaking Bad. I was like, oh, I'll just watch this whilst drawing. And then 3 episodes in, I was like, oh, I'm not drawing anymore. I'm watching this.
Can't with that. Okay. No way.
yeah. I mean, I think that was a game changer, wasn't it, for series? Like, it really raised the bar. I don't think anyone had seen anything like that before.
No, and that was on cable TV, too. That was on AMC. That wasn't on like HBO or anything special. Like,
oh right.
that was
I
one of the
think that's
coolest parts of it.
Yeah, I
Oh
think that was
really?
actually one of the biggest draws to it. Is like we're pushing the envelope so much, and we're not on a pay-per-view channel, basically, like HBO or
Oh.
Showtime or whatever.
Oh, so is that what? So AMC is cable, is it,
Yeah,
in America? Oh,
Yep.
and HBO is like, are they like the big leagues then? Because we can't get HBO in the UK, and it drives me mad. Like, I really want the streaming platform because they have all the
Huh.
great stuff. So we have to like have like Now TV, which is through Sky, but
Okay.
it doesn't have all of it. But that's interesting that AMC is because they did Walking Dead, right?
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah, and then you have like other channels like FX that did like Sons of Anarchy and the Mayans.
ah,
They've also done like a number of other shows that have been, sometimes hit, sometimes miss. But yeah, there's like there's regular TV channels like ABC, NBC, where you get
right,
like all that stuff, and then there's the basic cable, then you have like cable, which is like Disney Channel,
right.
FX, AMC. Trying to think of other channels. Like, did you watch Schitt's Creek?
No, no, but
So
I
good.
know of it. Do you like
So
that?
good.
So they had a channel. It's like called Pop TV or whatever, but that was
Right,
like, it's like another cable channel. And then you had
right.
like then you have the premium channels, which are like HBO, Showtime, Stars. Where you
Oh,
have to
okay,
Yeah.
pay a monthly fee just for that
right.
channel,
Oh,
and
just for
or
that
like its
channel. Okay, yeah,
ancillary, like HBO 2 or HBO Kids or whatever, right? Like you get
it's
the whole HBO family, but
it's funny because I like my parents like when I was growing up they refused to have cable TV, like we weren't allowed. So I just like
Hmm.
had the four channels. Like back in the UK, we only had four channels. Do you know what I mean? And that's all I had. And then like I don't know in the UK, I guess like we just have the streaming platforms mainly. I've never really had satellite TV or anything. It's funny, isn't it, with the whole streaming thing? Because it's like Paramount have released their streaming platform, didn't they,
yeah.
recently?
Yeah.
And I signed up to that for about 2 months, watched everything I wanted on there, and was like,
And then
cool,
you're
right,
done.
I'm
Yeah.
done with that. Like,
Yeah.
and I guess that's what everyone's doing now, isn't it? Because it's like, at one point we had like I think it was 8 streaming platforms, and I was looking at that and I was like,
That's a
man, we're
lot.
spending about 100 quid a month just on streaming. Do you know what I mean? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I don't want to spend that much money. Do you know what I mean? I was like, so we just cut it right back, and then I think everyone is doing that now. You just hop, don't you?
Yeah.
Like watch everything you want, close it down, move on to another one, and then just cycle through them.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to keep track of it all, isn't it? I just wish it was like they could just make it so it was all on one place. Do you know what I mean? But
Which is ironic.
Which is cable.
this is what cable is.
Which is cable. So.
Like, so I worked for the cable company, and that was a constant thing. Can't I just buy this one channel? Why am I paying like $50 a month? I'm never gonna watch all these channels. And now everybody's
Right.
like, why am I paying $50 a month for 5 channels?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you
Right.
got what you wanted.
Right,
Like, I don't
right.
think like you guys didn't quite understand how this
It's called
worked.
contracts.
Now,
Yeah.
now you are paying the price because, well,
Yeah.
you got what you wanted, and now you're kind of unhappy with that. But like,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
everybody's hopping because nobody wants to spend even like 100. Like each service is basically between $6 and $10 a month.
Yeah.
Sometimes 15.
If you're lucky.
Like,
Really.
If you're lucky,
Yeah.
and it's ad filled now. Even all the ones that
Right.
were like ad free, they're like, now it's
Yeah.
an ad service, and you want
Yeah.
no ads, like you gotta upgrade. And
Oh man, it's just horrendous, isn't it? Like the amount of ads. Like I was on Facebook, I watch videos on that, and like you're watching like a 2 minute video, and then you
Yeah.
have an ad like right in the last like third of it, and you're like, oh
I
man.
scroll away. The second I see
Yeah.
an ad, I'm like, all right, I don't want to deal with this. Like, this is not that
Yeah.
important to me. I scroll away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
totally.
But even Amazon, right? If you had subscribe to Amazon Prime, they give
Yes.
you've had Prime Video.
Yeah.
Prime Video has ads now. You got to pay an extra like $3 or $4 a month to get rid of them. It's like this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
no,
watching
I already
something.
gave you.
I was watching something on the Freeview, Freevee. I can't remember what it was on.
No,
Amazon.
Freebie. Yep.
And it's got ads in it, but they're just like jabbed in. Like it was like somewhere in the film that was a really suspenseful moment. I was really like getting into it, and it was just like cut to an ad, and I was just like, "This is crazy." You know, it just ruined. It was like a horror film. It just ruined all of the suspense. It ruined everything.
Even on TV shows, you'd think they would just insert the ads where the commercial break was clearly before.
Yeah.
And they're not. Like Roku TV is free here. Right. And my partner, she's been watching Bones. So they put the like mid-credit I've seen them just putting an the advertisement, like the commercial in the middle of the credits. And then it just comes back. And then you have that weird break after the credits before the episode starts playing, you know, where the commercial's supposed to be. And I'm just like,
you know what's going to be like
commercials.
You know how at a certain point to constrain the time, a lot of channels were, when a show or movie is done, it would shrink the credits down and put it like a picture-in-picture thing, so something else would be playing.
Yeah.
That's going to be everything you watch coming up soon. It's going to be picture-in-picture, where it's the show you're watching with an ad, and that's the whole thing for the length of that.
You mean the ad in the episode, right? Like, so the ad is this big and the episode's this big.
But the ad's volume is all the way up, and the episode is muted the whole time, so you can't hear it.
Right. There's kind of like there was a lot of stuff in the 90s, wasn't there? Like of like what the future would be like for us, which is just people watching like loads of different. I think it was like in Back to the Future Part 2, it has that, and there's like lots of like screens and lots of channels, and you're watching all the channels at the same time, and it's kind of like and that's kind of basically what like TikTok is, isn't it? I mean, I never actually went on to TikTok. But I'm on Instagram quite a bit, and you know I find myself on the endless scrolling of that, and you know I find it like so funny because like Andy Warhol, you know, famously talked about how we were all going to have our 15 minutes of fame, or all wanted it, but now it's like 15 seconds of fame, isn't it? It's kind of like, you know, and then like in another 20 years' time, is it going to be like a 5 seconds of fame, and then you're just going to have your face, do you know what I mean, for a glimpse, like, hey, I'm famous, you know.
And how's that for slowing or lowering attention spans, huh? Like, here's a reel for 30 seconds, and scrolling the next one, and scrolling the next one. It's like, I mean, granted, an hour can go by, and you're just going like this, going through different reels, but you know, there's no substance, and like, the entertainment factor, it's going the wrong direction. They gotta try and figure out how to bring it back the other way.
I think so. I think it's kind of it's interesting, isn't it? Like how there's always like a cause and effect, isn't there, with all these things, you know. I mean, I think everything reaches a saturation point at some point, and then there's like a switch, and I think that will happen at some point. Do you know what I mean? I hope it does anyway. Who knows, man? Who knows?
Everything, it's a circle. Everything just goes around the circle. You know, whatever is popular now will die down, and something that was popular 20 years ago is going to be the big thing again. And it's that roller coaster.
I definitely feel like, I don't know, maybe everyone in their life thinks when they look back to their childhood that they had it better, you know. I know my parents. Well, actually, my parents were kind of post-war, so they were like, "Oh no, our childhood was shit." You know what I mean? Our childhood was really bad, but you know, but they're like, I think my mum said like that she, you know, was in her 20s in the 60s, and she was like, "That was amazing. The 60s was incredible," you know. But I look back at my childhood in the 90s, and you know, I remember like amazing Saturday morning. Saturday morning, I think, was my favorite time because you had all the cartoons. You know, in Britain, you had all the cartoons. Had like 2 channels, which would have all the cartoons for kids, and that would go all through the morning. So, you know, that was just like, when I look back, you know, cereal, breakfast cereal, highly sugared, loads of like, do you know what I mean? Loads of E
Frosted
numbers
Flakes.
and all that, Frosted Flakes and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and just like absorbing amazing cartoons. And I think like it was an era of amazing animation as well. Like for like when you think of like films like Akira and Ghost in the Shell, and
Yes, yeah.
I was kind of lucky enough to have an older brother. So my brother was about 8 years older than me, and he was kind of he was kind of that sort of in between where he was kind of really irresponsible by showing me really violent films that I shouldn't have seen,
Yeah.
but also kind of responsible enough to kind of maybe censor some of it. So like Predator, I mean, I had nightmares with Predator, but I love it. It was one of my most favorite films.
Yeah.
But he would always censor the bit where they're all skinned alive, all that bit.
Yeah.
So,
Your brother's better than me.
Oh really? Well, did you used to show your brother?
Oh yeah, so my brother, similar. My brother's 8.5 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
So like during the summer and stuff like that, I would watch him, and he was like 2 or 3, and I just didn't. I would always watch whatever I felt like watching. So like when Scream came out on VHS, we rented it and I was watching it, and I was watching him watching it. Like so he straight up watched the movie Scream at like 3 or 4 whenever that came out. And
geez.
So and then as I got older, like he just kept watching whatever was on my screen because he always wanted to hang out with me. And like, whatever. Like he was good. Like he wasn't bouncing around my bedroom or anything like that. He was like, I had a couch in my bedroom because my aunt was like getting rid of it, so I just put it in my bedroom. So he would like sit on the couch and we would just watch TV and whatever. So like, but he's 6 or 7 and he's watching like Mallrats with me.
Right.
That's fine.
Right. So it's kind of like,
I mean that's an education, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Right. He probably learned what a schooner is. So
yeah, exactly.
Oh man, there's magic eye paintings. Oh my god.
Exactly. Which he could do and I couldn't, so I always hated him for that.
Yeah.
But that's it. Is like I never really censored him, but I made sure that he knew like everything was like certain things were okay and certain things were definitely not okay. So I was like, like kind of like your brother. You're like, yeah, maybe I'm gonna skip the skinning part of the Predator, and I was like, maybe I'll tell. You know what? There's a 3-nippled, fortune teller on the screen. Maybe just don't tell mom about this.
Oh, well, like in Total Recall, where she has 3 breasts.
Yeah,
exactly. But then I would counteract it with like distracting my mom so he could go do something super ridiculously dangerous that probably shouldn't have allowed him to do.
Right.
Like do a flip into off of a rock into a pool of water while I was definitely distracting my mom. Look over here at me real quick. Yep, just go. But he picked up a skateboard at like around that age and hasn't put it down yet. So it's not like I wasn't like really doing anything he wasn't putting himself in danger of anyway.
Yeah.
You're still an accomplice, Nick. Don't try and exonerate yourself.
Accomplice wasn't the word. It would be more like the ringmaster. Like I definitely didn't stop him, and I definitely did encourage it and give him ideas.
Yeah.
But that's I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't admit that. I don't know. I think the statute.
I think that's what I mean. I think that's what older brothers are for. Yeah. Like, I mean, my brother got me into so many things that, that's one of the main reasons why I'm a comic book artist is because of my brother. Like,
Nice.
in the 90s, comics were huge, weren't they? They had this massive resurgence. And I remember, like, specifically, Dark Horse brought out a mashup series of, like, Batman versus Predator. I think it was, like, Terminator versus Aliens, Predator versus Aliens, Aliens versus Predator.
So cool.
And I remember looking at those as a kid and just being like, wow, this is amazing. And the whole concept of like mashing movie universes together, because I think at the end of Predator 2, there was that Easter egg of the Xeno skull, wasn't there? And which kind of sparked it all off. And that just really got me into like, wow, I just, comics and everything. And that was just that's what, older brothers are for, isn't it? That kind of like inspiring you to kind of, yeah, you just want to be whatever they're into, isn't it? You're just looking up. Do you know what I mean? I think like we were on the cusp where it was acceptable. I think it was mainly down to computer games that it was acceptable to grow up with these things. Because I think in the past it was almost kind of like, or that generation before, it was that kind of idea of like, oh, you're at a certain age now. You either like you've got to grow up, or you're a geek and you don't, and you go into that. And I think worlds and peoples were much more tribal, and I think we grew up in a generation when the internet hit, particularly, where it was like actually, you can do whatever you want to do, and computer games were getting more sophisticated, so it was more acceptable to kind of still be playing computer games into your 20s, and and now it's like, well, yeah, it's fine if you're playing computer games in your.
You could shoot up a strip club and Duke Nukem.
Because now you make millions of dollars playing video games.
Yeah. That's crazy,
insane.
Isn't it? Yeah.
But that's it. We're in that weird middle generation where we had the massive benefit of growing with that technology.
Yes.
So we were kind of at the beginning of everything. Like I spent many hours at night instead of sleeping playing video games.
Yeah.
I was never fantastic enough to like go pro for like Counter-Strike or anything like that.
Oh, Counter-Strike, I remember that.
Right? Like that was that's where the esports started, and that's where everything and like people started doing that. Like, we had the movie The Wizard where people outside of the gaming community were like, there's video game tournaments where they do things like this. Right. Like, and we were in that age where that was there. So like people like 5 or 10 years older than us is probably the cap of, unless you were into it, it wasn't in your face. Whereas our generation was basically, it was shoved at us, even in our cartoons. Like Mike mentioned Voltron, like we were given like interplanetary kids basically who battled with giant lion robots. But it was there was computers, it was all futuristic. We have, bots masters where a kid literally created his own his own friends.
His own friends, right?
Because he was the outcast kid, right? Like
definitely,
like it was like poised and shoved at us, and all of the futuristic things were just basically like, here's what we think the future is going to be, like, give it to us. Dino Riders, people in the far future being shoved back to the prehistoric time, but they still got their technology and computers.
But what's great is how every single one of them got the future wrong.
Of course.
Like everything we
what
had.
Is it? Transformers the movie, it's like in the distant future of 2005.
Right? Like,
that's not what 2005 was like at all.
I know.
We passed Back to the Future 2 time. Right? Like, that movie took place years ago now, and everything about it is kind of like outside of the sports almanac, like everything else is completely wrong.
I mean,
maybe the TV thing is probably there, like the video phone calls are just getting there now. We're starting to see it, but we're still like, we don't have hover cars, and our hoverboards are really just weird 2-wheeled unicycles.
How'd they get away with how'd they get away with that branding? It's a hoverboard. It doesn't hover, and it's not a board. Damn it! Like you got it both of. You're wrong on both of them.
You have 2 words in there, and they're both wrong somehow.
I get really freaked out by the people who are on like the uniwheel, and they get like, and they're sort of balancing on it, and I'm just like, man, Like, fuck that. That just looks so dangerous. Like, do you know what I mean?
But
That's
that's
like
probably like the
compound
coolest one,
fractures.
though, right? That's
Do
probably
you
like the
think?
coolest one. Yeah, they're freaking. They're you can be freaking Gizmo Duck from freaking Ducktales. Like that's freaking badass.
Oh my god, it is as well, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. God, yeah. I saw that as a toy actually in a shop recently, and I was like, wow, that was like a memory unlocked as well. I was like, whoa. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was like that was a cool character. I really like that one.
Oh yeah.
yeah. And when he was in the new DuckTales, they did a pretty good job of it with him.
Yeah.
Gizmo Duck. I remember the episode, like it was like a 3-part episode with Gizmo Duck got introduced, and it was like
Yeah.
a huge event. Took weeks to go
cool.
through. It wasn't even like 3 episodes back to back. It was like multiple weeks.
Didn't he fight like a robotic car or something? It was like a transforming car or something, and he's fighting it, and he's sitting there. He's like, "You wouldn't hit a woman, would you?" And he like puts on a wig, and it like smacks him. And he's like, "You wouldn't hit a woman with glasses, would you?" And then he puts on glasses, and it smacks him.
I don't remember what he's fighting, but I remember that part. And after it happened, I definitely did the thing that my kid does now with like Minecraft. And I definitely went and told my mom, I was like, "Mom, I just saw this whole thing." And I gave her all of this information. And I have this like recollection of my mom's eyes being like completely glazed over. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. But in all fairness, my mom had me later in life. So she was like almost 40 when she had me. So
that's the same. 50s. Yeah, that's the same with me. Yeah. Like I was the kind of miracle, apparently. Like you know,
me too.
Oh, you too as well.
My brother.
My mom was told that she was not allowed to have kids anymore, and then all of a sudden I pop out.
Yeah, and I think like, my mom says I'm a miracle, and then I look at at the back and I see my dad behind her, just thinking that was my early retirement gone. Do you know what I mean?
Different M word, mistake.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I always joke to my mom saying that I was a mistake. She's like, "You weren't a mistake. You were a happy surprise." I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah, happy accident.
My brother is 8 years younger than me, so my mom had him at 45.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah.
Like, so for a long period of time, I was like, "Oh man, you were we weren't really planning on you there." And he's like, I'm that brother.
My dad was 36 when I was born.
Oh, really? Oh, right.
I mean, for a female, you're called geriatric at that point.
Exactly.
I mean, it's tricky, isn't it, nowadays? Because I think, I was having a conversation with about this with a friend of mine, and my partner's sister, she's just had a child, and she's in her mid to late 30s, and I think like with university, if you want to go to university, then by the time you get out, you're going to be like what most of the people are in their early 20s, and then you might want to get a job, or you might want to go traveling, or you might want to find what you want to do in life. That takes time. And then like in the UK, like buying a house is just a crazy thing because houses are so expensive here. So people are like, "Oh, maybe I want to buy a house before I have a kid." And then all of a sudden they're like, "Shit, doing all of those things is like taken 20 years." And now I'm like, "Oh shit, sure. Oh, I want a child. Shit, okay. Fuck, better get on that." Do you know what I mean? It's like,
we have like a 6-month window here to have a baby.
Yeah. Shit, I need to find someone to have a baby with. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you on the street. Do you want a child? Yeah.
If not, you can always create a robot to
have a robot child.
The robot child.
We'll call her Vicky. There's nothing in history that'll tell us that the robot will go wrong in that.
Well, not bring an uprising and try and kill you.
Yeah. It's quite scary at the moment, isn't it? With like kind of AI and everything. Like, I'm just like, I keep on sort of thinking like, has no one watched The Terminator? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Skynet is a thing. Skynet's a thing, right? Like, And I think Judgment Day, that was like a few years ago, wasn't it? The Judgment Day in the film, that was
I
supposed
don't
to
remember
be
what year
like,
that was.
I can't
Oh
remember what
crap!
year it was, but I think it was recently.
Huh.
And I'm just like, yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? I mean, I'm kind of me and my partner are going to get a furry dog baby soon.
There you go.
We just we're going to get four-legged furry friend, easy. It's like a child, but very easy, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It loves you
Hopefully.
unconditionally, and all you have to do is walk it and feed
Yeah.
it, and that's
Yeah.
it. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are the minimums. Yeah.
The hardest part is the first couple months when you gotta teach him to piss and shit outside, and after that, it's your buddy, it's your friend.
Oh, the dog. Yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely hard to teach your kid to do that. But
Yeah, no, a dog, and then they're your best friend for their life, at least, unfortunately. But yeah. The only downfall is if you want to do anything for like an extensive period of time, then you got to find someone to watch the dog, and that's the only downfall. So if you and your partner are big travelers or anything, that's the only. But I guess boarding a dog is cheaper than adding like an extra plane ticket or
definitely. I think we've got like, it depends on the type of dog you get as well. If you get like a really charismatic dog, like that's kind of a good size. Like loads of people are like, oh, I'll look after your dog. If you get a really big dog, people are like, do I really have to look after your dog? Do you know what I mean? Like, we're kind of thinking of getting what we really want. There are two breeds. One is a Swedish Fellhound, which is basically like, I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're basically like wolf corgis. So they're like a wolf with a giant head on the body of a corgi. They're like tiny.
Yeah, I like corgis. I have heard corgis are very temperamental though.
Yeah, I think they can be. Yeah, they can be a bit like. I love dogs with like stumpy legs. I just think they're hilarious. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wiener dog.
And it means you can leave treats and everything on top, and they won't get up to it. So.
Unless they're really long.
Yeah.
So what's the other dog?
The other dog is a what are they? A Pomsky. So it's basically a Pomeranian mixed with a Husky. Because I grew up with a Husky. I grew up with a what are they called? A Samoyed. And it was a big white fluffy dog called B.O.Y.Z.Z. He was incredible. He was a year younger than me when I was about 3 when we got him. So he was basically like my younger brother. But the thing is, he was quite big. When you walked him, he walked you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, Huskies get big.
Yeah, I mean he was a great dog, but like I basically want that, but miniature. And so they mix them with a Pomeranian, and you get a Pomsky, and you basically get a Husky that's kind of a 3/4 size. Do you know what I mean? You can fit
awesome.
in a bag.
That's awesome.
I had a Husky German Shepherd Lab mix growing up, and he was a monster.
Oh, really? Was he?
Yeah, he was like. Let me rephrase that. He was very large. He was the nicest, sweetest dog. I had him for like a decade, and I heard him bark 3 times.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
2 of those were because somebody stepped on his foot.
Wow. That's incredible.
I heard him bark at something outside once, and it turns out there was like a gopher or something, because I lived on a river growing up.
Right.
So it might have been like a beaver or woodchuck or something like that, and he was just like on the porch, like he barked at something, and we were like, did our dog bark? We should probably go look, because what is he barking at? And it turns out it was like I think
probably barked, and Nick's whole family was like, "What the fuck's that sound?" Like,
yeah, what is that?
Did something break?
Was that Chopper? Was that our dog?
It's like one of my favorite shows is Silicon Valley, another HBO beauty. But everyone has their phones on vibrate, and all you do is text all day long and stuff like that. And there's an episode where like a phone starts ringing, and they're like, "What the hell's that noise?" And they're all like freaking out. And then one of them's like, "Oh, dude, it's my cell phone. I didn't even know it made noise." Like, it's like, That's next family with the dog. Like, what the fuck is that? I think
yeah. Shit.
I think Fido's broken. Like, we should probably take him to the vet. He just made a weird noise.
Yeah. He's trying to talk to us. Weird. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's kind of how that's how it was each time. Like, and it turns out, like, 2 of the times, like I said, somebody stepped on his foot. And, like, the 3rd time, might have been a 4th time, we were just kind of like, what is going on? Because it's not even like we lived like in a ravine, kind of like at the bottom of like surrounded by not like a huge part, but like a couple 100 feet of like valley,
okay.
right?
Wow.
So it's not like we had like a whole bunch of houses either around it. Oh, maybe it's somebody else's dog. We were the only people with a dog in the area, so it's kind of like, I don't know.
He's barking at Michael Myers. You better watch out.
Oh man, I mean, my dog used to freak me out actually, because I grew up in basically like in a wood, and the wood was quite creepy at night. I've got to be honest. There was a little graveyard at the bottom of the wood, and I remember once as a teenager walking through the woods, like this was shortly after the Blair Witch. Someone had made like Blair Witch type kind of stick things.
Oh jeez, yeah.
And I was just like, oh shit, man, this is like a kind of a creepy wood to grow up in. And my dog would do that thing when my parents went away and I would have to be in the house by myself. I mean, Scream actually really kind of shitted me up a bit because the house was a bit like the first house where she gets murdered.
Oh jeez.
And kind of that kind of remote as well. And
did they have a pool out back too?
Huh? What was that?
Did they have a pool out back too?
Oh, we didn't have a pool. Well, we're in Britain, so like it's like raining here most of the time, right?
Yeah.
But like my dog would do that thing where, like, it would be really quiet and he would be panting. He'd be like, and then just stop, and I'd be like, "What? What is it?" And he'd just stop and stare at something, and I'd be like, "Oh no," that would freak me out. And then I was convinced it was ghosts as well. I was just like, shit,
they
can he see ghosts?
Say dogs can see spirits.
That's it, isn't it?
That's a common, not fact, but a common rumor that dogs can see spirits.
Yeah. Well, I remember like when I was a teenager, I had this like, I think it was the first time my parents left me alone in the house by myself, and I mean, I was a bit of a stoner when I was a teenager, so I was like in my room, and I suddenly heard all this noise outside, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" I opened my window, and I could just see the bushes down at the bottom of the garden just going like that. It was like Jurassic Park, like the raptors, and I was just like, my window just like, "What the fuck is going on down there?" And I was just like freaking out, and I got my torch. I had a torch, got it, shined it down the garden, and then all I could see was these eyes just reflecting in the light, and it was really, really scary.
It's American Werewolf in London.
I think so, yeah. It was either that. I think it was just like 2 badgers basically just having a fight, and I'm just like, but I was just freaked out, man. I was just like, yeah, like
yeah, I could see that for sure.
yeah. It's funny, like growing up in remote places, I think, especially when you've got an overactive imagination. And growing up with horror films from like the age of like 6 or 7,
Yeah.
Our dog was barking at something the other day, and we were like, "What are you barking at?" Like, so we looked around. It turns out we had some bears in our front yard.
Wow. God, bears. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I live in a woody area.
Right.
Like, I have a family of foxes that live under my my shed right now.
Right.
That's not, yeah, and so we have constantly deer and turkey and all sorts of other random animals. But there's like constantly like bear sightings and some sort of larger cat, whether it's a Fisher cat or something, bobcat. People are like, and they go back and forth.
Right.
But yeah, it's like constantly those 2 things. So people.
I mean, that's quite scary though, right? Bears. I mean, like I'm getting freaked out by badgers, but badgers aren't going to do anything. Like a bear could actually kill you, right?
Right.
Like
so there was like when we looked outside, I happened to just catch him It was like three baby black bear cubs.
Oh, that's cute.
So yeah, they were kind of adorable, running across like
Yeah.
the far part of our yard and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
into the woods on the other sides. They were kind
Yeah.
of, it was adorable watching them leave.
Yes. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just glad I saw them and not, you know, the bigger one.
Yeah, the big mother that's kind of like in
Don't know where
ultra
that
protective
was.
mode.
But I would I'm glad I didn't run into that one. But there's
So
been
what?
sightings and people posting photos of them in like my town.
Oh wow. So where do you
Yeah.
both live then? Do you live near each other?
Like a half hour apart. Yeah, we live
Okay.
we live up in New Hampshire, so
Oh,
Not
okay.
Old Hampshire.
yeah,
That's over by you.
we live
Right.
we live in New England in the
Ah.
northeast United States.
Oh, okay. So you're like in Stephen King territory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Ah, right, right. That's interesting. I mean, it's like it's funny that because I, growing up in the era that we've grown up in, like, I mean, for me, like Americana was like a huge thing for me. Like,
Sure.
it's funny because I've been to America 3 times, and it's never felt like a different place to me. Like well, I went to New York for the first time, and I was like, wow, I feel like I've been here so much because I've seen it in so many films,
Yeah.
and like and I've always wanted to go to New England because I think growing up with so many Stephen King films and so many horror films and everything, they're all set in New England, aren't they? And like
Feel like coming back
Beetlejuice
home.
and yeah. I'd love to sort of see it, like, and kind of like I just imagine like the lighthouses on the coast and all of that, and yeah,
got
yeah.
They're here. They're
Oh,
here.
interesting.
They still function and everything. But
Oh, that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
nice.
also the birthplace of the turtles. Like, it was created like an hour from us.
Oh, was it? Oh, really?
Yeah. Like,
Right.
they did like a big dedication ceremony in November for like where the house stood at one point that like
Right.
literally they created it in. And there was like a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's like in our area in New England specifically, it's a pretty big thing. Like,
Right.
we got the Boston Tea Party and turtles. Like, I think sports are here, but like outside, I follow basketball, but like we're a big sports area. But like in Stephen King, you're right. Like, we have Stephen King and Adam Sandler.
And Adam Sandler, right?
Adam Sandler is literally from our state too. That's
Is he?
why yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Well,
okay.
so is Sarah Silverman and Mike O'Malley.
Who's that?
Mike O'Malley. He was an actor and a comedian. He hasn't really done much acting lately, but
Did you watch the show Glee?
Oh, I know of it, but I never watched it. I haven't seen a lot of the shows that you've seen. I've seen it, which is crazy because I've seen a lot of shows. Do you know what I mean? Like,
how about My Name is Earl?
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah.
He plays the cop, and he plays the cop that is just a complete failure and ends up turning gay with what's that guy's name? The kid's name?
Yeah.
I forget.
I don't remember.
That was interesting.
But it's just so funny. Like, that was the funniest like story arc in that, because there was Earl's friend who was like the scrawny guy with glasses that was gay and everything, and
oh yeah,
he keeps on calling the cops. So Mike O'Malley's character would show up, and he would just keep on like hitting on him, very obviously. And Mike O'Malley's character was like, "Dude, stop! Like, I'm flattered, but stop." And then eventually, one episode, they're just like together. Right. His plan worked.
Wear them down over time.
Yeah,
it's funny actually. Like, there's something about like American cops. Like, I mean, like comparing like American cops to UK cops. Like, the UK cops here, I just don't think are very sexy because they wear like bright yellow. You know what I mean? And they've got the hats,
cross guards.
Yeah, and like the police cars aren't sexy. They're like bright, with fluorescence on and everything. In America, I was like, wow, okay, like the cops are like, they've got like badass uniforms and you've got badass police-looking cars and stuff. Like, I mean, it's kind of yeah. So it's kind of funny, really. I always find that quite interesting, like the difference. Like,
That's it.
yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they they're definitely portrayed in one of two fashions in movies or on TV. It's either they're complete dolts or they're all super cops. Like it's one of the two.
one of the two, nothing in the middle. Like,
No.
yeah.
No,
It's not a very broad spectrum. It's literally one tick of the needle and that's it. And you're there.
It was funny with like what was the guy? My Name Is Earl. What was his name? Jason Lee, isn't it?
Jason Lee.
Yep.
Jason Lee. Yeah, it's interesting. Like his thing, wasn't it? Because he was a pro skater, right?
He was a pro skater.
Skater. Then he was cast in Mallrats, and then he did all of the acting stuff, and now he has like an actual photography studio, and he's
right?
Sells cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Wow. Yeah. I mean, so it was literally Mallrats was the thing that kind of tipped it, right, for him. Oh, interesting. Yeah. God, yeah. Yeah, I find that really like interesting, like people's like journey, you know, where they kind of fall into sort of things like acting and, you know, have a really like prolific career where they hadn't intended that at all. All they did is just take a chance and then it kind of slipped into it. Do you know what I mean?
And it kind of just stuck and stumbled for them. And
meanwhile, you got the rest of the world that tries and fails, and you got people like Jason who's just like, I'm gonna retire at 23 or 26, however old he was, and like, oh, maybe I'll try acting, and then becomes a big household name, like for TV and stuff, and
it's kind of really unfair, isn't it?
It is.
You know
it is a lot. Jason Lee, I actually had the pleasure of meeting him a couple years ago at a convention.
Oh yeah.
With him and his brother Randy were there.
Oh really? Right. Yeah. What was he like? Was he all right?
Yeah, no, fantastic guys, both of them. I don't stumble a lot, but I stumbled with Jason Lee.
Right.
Like kind of like the starstruck stumble that you like.
Yeah.
And my partner was with me, and she's like, I've never seen you like kind of like freeze up and clam up like that. Yeah. And like I kind of just like walked away, and she's like, "Don't worry, I'll get all our stuff because like I've got like a like bring around." She's like, "I got it," and I was like, "What? Oh, right, my bad." Like I just kind of it was like it's weird to see because Mike knows I'll walk up to anybody and start talking to them about almost anything.
Right.
And like I did talk to him, and it was good talking to because it was his first convention. He's like, I didn't know what to expect. I'm just happy. Like he's like, I'm happy to see people. Like then there was like a panel for him and Randy talking about My Name Is Earl, and he's like, I never thought I'd be signing skateboards. Like people like know me for this stuff, and like it was a good time. It was a good time.
I just want to know how many Sega Genesis did he sign?
Oh, Sega Genesis! Oh wow!
Hell hath no fury, like a woman scorned for Sega.
It's true.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah. Is he playing like Michael Madden or something? Isn't it?
No, it's hockey.
93.
Yeah. Vancouver, the whale.
Happens once in a lifetime, maybe once or twice in a lifetime.
Yeah. Oh man, I loved like Mallrats growing up, like and I really loved like Clerks as well. Like I think Clerks was always my favorite. Like and I remember once, like I don't know, I must have been about 16. I used to have really long hair. I used to have hair like down past my nipples. Do you know what I mean? That sort of length.
Jay?
And like kind of similar length. And I was in like a thrash metal band. We were terrible, but it didn't matter. Do you know what I mean? I had like a BC Rich Warlock, which was like the pointiest guitar you could ever have.
Nice.
It was like an axe. Do you know what I mean? It was shit. It sounded awful. Played really badly, but it just looked fucking badass. So I didn't care. But I went to a fancy dress party as Silent Bob, and I stayed in character. The whole idea
You didn't
was
talk
I
to
was going to
anybody?
stay. Didn't talk to anyone. Well, I didn't have Jay. I didn't have anyone with Jay to do all the talking, and I think I left the party, and I think people were just like, "Who's that weird guy who just didn't say anything?" Do you know what I mean?
Well, you forgot the most important part about Silent Bob. You
Was-
at the end of the party, you should have just given someone a monologue about their life that they did not ask
Yes.
for.
Yeah.
So senior year Halloween party at high school, I dressed up as Silent Bob. I had the black coat. I had like a fake brown wig that I put on under a hat.
Okay. Right.
And my buddy did dress up as Jay.
Oh, nice.
He was a grade below us, so there was like we could only spend so much time together.
Okay.
But I was silent. I had things in my pockets because you know how he always has like those like beautiful toys, as Jay
Yes.
calls them.
Yeah.
I still have it. Like I have a bat, like a very chintzy Batman like grappling hook that I carried
that's
around
cool.
with me. Like I did the whole thing. Like
Fly,
I,
fat
Wow.
ass, fly.
right? Like a razor.
Yeah.
I even had a razor scooter so I could ride it around. Like, as
Oh,
part of the
wow.
costume. Like he never used it in any of the movies, but I was like, I'm just gonna like do this.
Yeah.
I was very quickly asked to put that away. High school didn't want you riding around.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, but I did use only. I did limit myself to only the phrases he used. So
Oh,
I would
okay.
like I got called on in math and talked about lasagna, and my teacher was very confused. Like it was about it was his line from Clerks, and my friend had to explain their like, and the teacher just kind of looked at me, shook his head, and went on to somebody else.
Yeah.
The best, which I forget which movie it was, but the best monologue is when like Jay just calls him on his bullshit. He's like,
Right,
"You never
right,
fucking
right.
say anything." No, it was something else, wasn't it? Because they
No.
called back to Chasing Amy in it. He's like, "You have no
Right.
problem crying about that Amy girl, but anytime I need you for something, blah blah blah."
Yeah. It's funny actually, like in on my podcast, so I do a cocktail podcast with a friend of mine, and we did a Prince special, and like Kevin Smith came up in that because I didn't realize that Kevin Smith used to work for Prince, like or was doing some filming for Prince. So
Huh.
my friend was
Oh,
telling me
yeah.
about that.
The music
And
video
then
that never was.
is that's what it was, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he did a full-on music video.
And then, so I'm kind of paraphrasing from my friend who's kind of paraphrasing from watching something with Kevin Smith talking about it, like for a podcast. And apparently, like he was like filming Prince, but Prince was going on a massive tirade or something, or like preaching because he was quite religious at that point. And Kevin Smith was like filming, just being like, "Oh my God, when do I can't stop filming, but I've got like other shit to do." Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of it's just quite nuts that like I didn't realize that. Yeah, and then it kind of makes sense to why Kevin Smith had Morris Day and the Time at the end of is it Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
It is
Because they were connected with Prince. They were in a band together, weren't they? Morris Day
Oh,
and
okay.
Prince. And they were like friends. So it's
I
kind
thought
of
it was
it's
just because Jay's got jungle love. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and they do that dance with the
Yo.
legs, and they kind of
Yeah.
like do their crazy legs. I can't really do it on camera, but yeah, I think it's a bit too late. Otherwise, I'd get up and try and do it. But yeah,
Yeah, right. Speaking of late, it's like 12:30 over there in the morning.
Oh yeah, I think it's later than that. I think it's like 1:30 actually. Yeah, it's 1:30. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on the show. It's been really it's been lovely talking to you guys.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's
Thanks for
been
coming on,
great.
man. This has been super fun, and as always, a
Yeah.
good tangent of conversations that we go on, and we
Yeah,
always
man.
explore good things and unlock ancient memories, and not ancient spirits of evil, but ancient memories.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. Yeah, unlocking nostalgia, man. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
So
Yeah.
before you go, tell everybody where they can find you and the stuff you got going on right now.
So everyone, I'm working on a comic book at the moment called Hendrix. It's with Matt Stapleton. It's called, who's got the handle What If Stories on Instagram. But if you go over to my Instagram at Rhys Wootton, that's RHYSW, oh, you'll see it. You can go over and have a look at it. And I'm making the last part. And if you're a fan of Santa Carla and the Lost Boys, that's where we're ending up in this comic. It's a movie town through Jaws, Tremors, and the Lost Boys. How's that?
Nice. That's awesome.
Okay.